Be me, playing Dwarf Fortress, this time running the glorious fort of Eshtanshed, or Smithorder in the common tongue. Have a decent military of 40 dwarfs, all steel armor, axes and warhammers, except that one doofus who got attached to an iron spear. What a wazzock. Train them all 9 months of the year, 2 months in active duty, and 1 month off duty to make them happy. Suddenly, massive goblin siege happens, nearly 100 of the bastards. Send out all 40. Some of them don't even bring weapons. WTF goblins ask for parley. This is usually because they want to extort an artifact from me. I don't negotiate with gobbo filth. The battle joins on top of a hill just outside the fort. Absolute devastation. Only lose 3 dwarfs, though 2 need to be retired due to life-changing injuries. The gore, body parts, corpses and teeth of goblins is everywhere. I knew right there that this would be a massive hassle to clean up, so as soon as the wounded were seen to, the denizens begin cleaning up, which means bringing body parts and corpses inside to the charnel pit, which will later be put into the dwarf Aton Smasher. In essence, a little hack to get rid of trash you don't want so FPS doesn't drop. Not even a quarter way through a caravan arrives. Oh crap, why now? Immediately tell everyone to stop hauling bits of dead gobbos because we need to bring out the goods. It doesn't end well. Trade negotiations don't start. I guess a random angry capybara came from nowhere, spooked the merchant's horse into the river, and they wound up losing all of their goods, which became unrecoverable. I'm pissed, but there's nothing to be done, so I tell the dwarfs to continue cleaning up the mess. Wait a minute, what is that miasma? Turns out some idiot decided to drop a gobbo hand in the tavern near the entrance of the fort. It rotted and stunk the place up. Everybody retching and upset. Get angrier. It takes 4 in-game months to clean up. Teeth, so many sick, angry dwarfs. Be me, still at Smithorder after the Battle of Dwarven Dentists. So many teeth, such a mess. Everyone is still pissed about the rotten gobbo hand left in the tavern by whatever lazy numbskull decided to just drop it and wander off. Dwarfs are stressed out. Decide I need some tallow to make soap, so I start looking at my livestock. I was able to pen all my animals underground due to cave moss growing after I tunneled to the caverns. As I'm looking through and clicking on critters to be slaughtered, I realize I have around 60 damn puppies. Originally, I attained a breeding pair of dogs in hopes of making hunting hounds, but the countryside offers little game, so I scrapped that idea. I don't like using war dogs as I don't like the thought of dogs getting hurt. I realized that all of these stray puppies weren't doing anything. I also realized that none of them was set to available as pet, so I set each and every one of them to available and released them from the pen. The unground halls explode in a huge mass of yipping, sniffing, playing, bounding, tail-wagging puppies. They scurry all over the place and are almost all adopted within a day. Our broker, who is also a barkeep at our tavern, adopts 17 of the little buggers, so our tavern always has small puppers running around in it. This delights everyone. The little derps even follow him out when he goes to negotiation. Morale shoots through the roof. Dwarfs are much happier now. Decreasing blood pressure with puppies is science. Look it up. I guess it works on dwarfs too. Be me, still at glorious fortress of Smithorder, now the capital of our civilization due to minting a ton of platinum coins. So much so our monarch the queen decided to make it her home. Feels Goodman Doypeg. Preparing of delve deep, get adamantine and see what else is down there. Forges going 24/7, making traps because I just know there's going to be some shit down there. I'm determined not to make this a repeat of Moria. See that a planter is taking a tantrum. Don't think much of it, but keep an eye on it. Sometimes they break things or punch people. This planter seemed to walk up and down the hall screaming and yelling at people heading by the temple district or mayor's apartment. Then he does something which, while not uncharacteristic of a dwarf throwing a tantrum, certainly set things off. A small group of cats were passing by and he decided to punch one. The result was akin to a large magnet being thrown into a room full of metal. All the cats in the group pounce on him. This planter, now less having a tantrum and more of a meltdown from hell, is fighting them off. Another dwarf joins, a miner, and attempts to help the cats, along with her dog, swinging a pickaxe at the planter. The planter takes them on. A gem cutter, a mason, and a fisherman come up from the mines, drop their cargo, and rush in to help subdue the planter. At this point, I think the situation will sort itself out. Nope, the planter is still throwing hands. More dwarfs enter the fray until the whole section of the hall is one massive brawl. DMX's Bring Your Whole Crew starts playing. Cats jumping on people, teeth flying, people puking from traumatic injuries. One guy literally lost his nose. When the fight was over, the planter, 5 cats, 3 others dwarves, a dog and a goblin were dead, though in truth I dispatched the guard to the riot too late. So when they got there, I had them kill the goblin, who was visiting. I'd like to think they planted a dagger on him. Dirty Groby. 15 to 17 dwarfs are hospitalized. The chief medical dwarf takes a tantrum of his own from the amount of wounded. Even the queen is wounded. As she gets carried away, she requests an order of short swords, a weapon she obsesses over but never uses. The Duchess requests more grates, her own obsession, while elbow deep in gore, helping suture wounded dwarfs. Production grinds to a halt. Such is life in Smithorder. Be me, still at Smithorder. Take a break from digging deep due to lava and accidentally losing 4 miners to a magma explosion when they hit a warm rock and were burnt to a crisp. Make memorial for them, poor bastards. Decide that between digging deep and making traps that I would make a false entrance to Smithorder that is full of nasty sawblade and spike traps. Takes almost half a year in-game due to the Duchess suddenly becoming a sick, mentally deranged torturer and is beating the arms, legs and toes of prisoners with a warhammer until they're mulch. Prison looks like something out of slasher movie and nobody bothers to clean up the gory mess. I have no clue why she's turned out this way, outside of maybe being lovesick. Look at what beard does to a lady. With the false entrance, I make a long haul as to make intruders run a gauntlet of nasty traps, after I saw that they can sometimes simply sidestep them. It's hard to sidestep something when it's everywhere, so I double down on the traps and decide to put a ballista at the end of the hall. Let's see the Groby try me now. Eventually, a raiding party of the Green Gits show. Seal the main entrance and let them come. At first they wander around, shooting arrows at the native capybara. I don't mind this much, as the capybara are ridiculously aggressive and visiting nobles seem to show up and hunt them for sport. As they do this, I order the ballista to be primed to fire and wait until they enter. I am notified of combat, that apparently one of the dwarfs is outside fighting a few of them. Panic for a moment until I realize it's a hammerlord in full armor who, instead of hitting the goblins with his hammer, is wrestling them down and biting them to death. I decide he can probably handle them himself and go back to the false entrance and order the ballista to fire. It is a thing of beauty. One goblin explodes in a shower of gore. One gets sawn into bits by the traps and the ballista hits one in the stomach. It has its guts hanging out, which is pretty gross. They go to run, but many are wounded and slow. Have the militia clean up the rest. Idly wonder how long it will take to clean. Hopefully not as long as the Battle of Dwarven Dentists. Then begin to think about the Hammerlord biting gobos to death, the visiting nobles who hunt angry capybara and the Duchess mutilating people. A cold chill enters my bones and I remember the old story of boat murdered and wonder, is Smithorder going to end in insanity and burning death as well? By Armok, I hope not. Be me, still at Smithorder, and the Queen is dead. After being jailed for disorderly conduct where she punched a dog and a small child, she was sentenced to a hammering. Turns out it was a hammerlord that took it upon himself to carry out the penalty. What's crazy is that this loon didn't even use a hammer. He decided to beat the Queen to death with his hands. What's even more wild, he's not legally in the wrong according to dwarf law. She slowly dies alone in the cell after the hammerlord punched her in the head so hard it fractured her skull, tore the ligaments in his neck and opened an artery. She just laid there, crippled and unable to breathe until she died. Now I am sure Smithorder is going to descend into anarchy, but it doesn't. It reverts back to a duchy, with the king consort losing his title and becoming a count of some far-flung county I couldn't be asked to go look up. Well, go figure. At least there will be no more demands for umgak swords that we never use. Now we just have a psycho of a duchess to deal with. On the bright side, now I can stop digging deep. Met one demon and the thing somehow dodged every single trap I laid for the eventuality. It munched a few dogs, 2 miners, and a shearer before the guard took it down. Didn't I tell you there'd be some shit down there? I'd rather deal with the Groby than weird parrot spider creatures that spew acid on people. Furthermore, forgotten beasts rampage in the underground catacombs. Thankfully, I barricaded and walled off the catacombs so idiot autistic dwarfs don't go looking for spider webs, but that doesn't stop the fact that multiple forgotten beasts engage in kaiju fights down there. Cyclopean, elephant-headed praying mantis monsters who crap webs struggling against overgrown feathered beetles who breathe fire, with the occasional eyeless stegosaurus, with antennae lumbering around and smashing cavern dwellers to paste. I can only imagine the sounds they make and the nightmares sleeping dwarfs have, due to sleeping literally only 3 floors above them. With one less irritating royal noble, I turn my attention to my own project, Operation Groby Crush. I swear, before I leave Smithorder to stake a new claim, I will see this land scoured of these meddling, child-snatching, green-skinned, pea-brained, miasma-making, cat-buggering, artifact-lusting, diminutive, scum-sucking, hook-nosed, beardless wretches. Light the forges, craft steel armor and weapons, train more dwarfs. I'm coming for you, for each and every single one of you, Groby. Be me, in my final days as steward of Smithorder, preparing Operation Groby Crush. Relentlessly drill the militia and send them out on a few raids to the nearest Groby stronghold of Dent Metal. How metal can it be, really, with Groby running the place? I come to see the Baroness of Dent Metal frequents my tavern. That's when I realize this isn't just some sort of genocide. It is a matter of settling a grudge. Groby squatters, damn them all. However, I am assailed, not from without, but within. The widower of the late queen keeps putting in orders for shields. Every month he requests this. He functionally does nothing except request shields and lounge around, doing nothing other than sleeping in a bedchamber that is now way, way above his station. He isn't even a king by the ancestors. Muck around until I find out I can assign him to the militia. A plan forms. Sent him, in a squad consisting of one other dwarf, a captain because apparently nobility can't lead the militia, crutting nonsense, out to attempt to conquer Dent Metal. Snicker to myself as the 2 bumbling wazzocks lumber over the hills and far away. Groby food, dead stunties walking. Ready myself for that autumn's trade caravan when those 2 come back. According to the report, they showed up to Dent Metal with its around 7,000 Groby and for once in the history of all recorded dwarf psychology engaged in common sense and simply walked back to Smithorder. I hold my head in deep frustration, wondering if I have to wait until the next Groby attack and stick the numbskull on the front line until I get a request for a new guild hall. I idly wonder where to put it when a new plan hatches, a plan worthy of the umgy poet crybaby Edgar Allan Poe. I begin construction of the new guild hall, clearing everything out. Then I simply order those 2 to stand guard in the new unfurnished room and simply wall them inside. They last a month before they both die of dehydration, despite having full water skins. I was honestly surprised cannibalism didn't happen. I mean, I've never heard of dwarf eating dwarf, but it could happen, right? From there, I take down the wall, have their rotted bodies hauled away, and set up the guild hall. Everyone is happy, and nobody spends too much time thinking about what I did. Afterwards, I spend no less than 4 years raiding Dent Metal every month. Each member of the militia, having trained for almost a decade straight, is an army unto themselves. They butcher Groby by the hundreds each, until one day in the late autumn, when the Groby population of Dent Metal has been reduced to around 500, I tell them to raid no longer. I tell them to capture. 40 bearded badasses leave Smithorder, never to return. I wait weeks. I hear nothing. And then I get the news. Dent Metal has been recaptured, the last of the Groby cut down, and the commander I sent has been elected mayor, with the other squads now taking up residence there. I smiled to myself. I had succeeded with grit and gumption, through stupidity and stubbornness, through constant artifact thieving, raiding, cat-flinging, brawls, and aggressive capybara, through insane, inept nobles and weird, gribbly monsters, through goddamn subterranean kaiju fights. Dwarf hillocks begin to pop up around Smithorder as our civilization flourishes, the only Groby remaining are far east. In time I may set up another fort that way, and see about wiping them out entirely. But for now, I have achieved exactly what I desired to do ever since the Battle of Dwarven Dentists. I put in my notice, gather my belongings, and bid Smithorder farewell. I sing the song of our people as I leave, born underground, grown inside a rocky womb. The earth is our cradle, the mountain shall become our tomb. Face us on the battlefield, you will meet your doom. We do not fear what lies beneath. We can never dig too deep. The end.